Hey guys, it's SB. I'm in the beautiful Park Cities, Utah. Look at that. And I wanted to welcome you to our YouTube channel. I wanted to let you know that we are supported by donors. So if you've been blessed by our podcast in any way, you can go to our website, thehandlebarpodcast.com, and you can donate there. Also on our website, we have really cool merch. So go ahead and check that out as well. We have cool sweaters, tote bags, mugs, beanies, you name it. And then if you want to submit a question to us, you can also do that at the website. So thanks for tuning in, and we love you. Bye.
Welcome to the Handlebar Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Handlebar Podcast.
Sarah,
you look beautiful today. I have not told you that, so
thank you.
I've got to tell
I
you.
had my pajamas on when you left the house, so that's
Well,
probably.
It was the morning.
It was the morning.
I'm excited to be here today. We have two really amazing guests that we will introduce in just a moment. Before we introduce them, I want to tell you about our sponsor. Sometimes when we're talking about sponsorships, I don't know where to look. Is it here? Is it the camera? Is it those that are watching? We have a sponsor.
That's a good question.
And our sponsor is CareNet. And so CareNet is amazing. Here's who CareNet is and what CareNet does. So CareNet is a pregnancy crisis center. So if you or a loved one has found yourself in an unplanned pregnancy, there is options.
It's amazing
there are
what
options
they do.
for you.
Yeah.
And they're Christian funded with, they have scripture as their backing and their belief. Here's what I love about CareNet is so oftentimes the conversation of abortion, when it comes up in the church is heralding, we're anti-abortion, as we should be. But one of the gaps it seems there oftentimes is with the church is that people feel like the church isn't helping, that we're heralding a message of, abortion is wrong, abortion is, all the things that it is.
But not doing anything to help it.
And CareNet is, which is what I love about CareNet. So if it's you, if it's a loved one, if it's someone you know and you need help, we want to tell you about CareNet. We want to tell you that CareNet can help you. You do have options. So you can find out more information about CareNet in the link in our description of this episode. We love you, CareNet. Shout out. They're our sponsor for this episode.
It's amazing.
So
thanks, CareNet.
Let's get to it. I'm really excited about this episode. We have Chad and Charis Freegee with us. Did I say your last name correctly?
Of course.
Yeah, okay, I have to ask, what is the origin
You got nervous.
of your last name?
Lebanese.
I did get nervous. I did.
Lebanese.
Whoa, that's cool.
I've been called all sorts of things growing up. Especially when you're introduced in like sporting events. Can you imagine starting guard at 6 foot tall, Chad, and then you just
What was the best one?
Frehe, I think. Frehe is the best.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And you feel bad for people that have known you though for like months and you've just never corrected them. Like when we moved here, there was a few of those.
But do you feel like sometimes I will know someone, I'm like, I don't know their last name.
Oh, totally.
Like I've known them. I have many conversations. But I'm saying more their last name. Like
yes, I know what you're
they're
talking
just
about.
Sarah to me. And then you're like, wow, I don't.
Yeah, and in your phone, they're just the first name, and then you have all these
and
first
it's
names.
Sarah, upper room.
And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's so true. We're so happy you guys are here.
We are so happy. So we'll introduce you, and then if you can introduce yourself, we'd love to do that quickly. So Chad and Charis are now friends.
Yeah.
First, you were not friends, but
I'm
we
so
knew who you were.
That, honestly,
and I'm
we're sitting down as friends. And
yes. You guys moved from Indiana. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, I got it right.
Yes.
Okay, you moved from Indiana. You brought your whole family. You are living in Lake Highlands here in Dallas, and you have just become a core, intricate part of the Upper Room, our church home. So your daughter, Eden, is an active Handlebar podcast listener.
Shout out to
Eden.
We love you, Eden.
Eden is amazing. All right, 30 seconds. If both of you want to, just tell us who you are. Who are the Freegees?
You go first.
We met at Baylor. Chad is a Hoosier through and through, had it on his line jersey.
Wow.
And I didn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
I only visited there in the summer. So when we got married, we dated all of college. We got married.
I tricked her. She's going to say
I was mortified that winter
She'd never
was like
visited
7
in the
months
winter.
long.
She'd only visited Indiana in the summer.
I feel like he tricked me a little bit. But anyway, we got married 15 years ago. We met freshman year of college. We have 5 children. We love Upper Room. We love the local church. We always have.
We're local church people. Mm-hmm. That comes from Antioch. If anyone had ever heard of Antioch.
Yeah.
We love Antioch.
Church. Yeah.
Love Antioch.
You guys went there in college, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And we helped plant in Indianapolis. So Antioch, Indy. Then a couple years ago, it was that's another crazy story. Just the Lord, we moved to Dallas not knowing why, but
just in faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dropped it in our hearts, confirmed it over and over again. It's kind of, I think you've done an episode on fasting. Is that right?
We have.
So, yeah.
Yes.
We started praying and fasting about it, and the wheels just started falling off in the best of ways, like just confirming it. And so we're here.
Now you're here.
Wow.
Here we are.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Well, okay, I have a question for us today. I pulled this question specifically for you guys, and it's not really a question. It's more so someone submitting a topic idea in the form of a statement, and I loved it. And I know some of your guys' story, and so it's why we asked you to be here today. And so this was submitted by a 16-year-old in the United States of America who says anonymous for their name. And before I read the question, can I just say what in the kingdom is anonymous? Is anything in the kingdom anonymous?
In elementary school, did you ever have unspokens? Prayer requests?
Yeah.
Did you ever have unspoken?
It's kind of like the
It's
person
like
version.
you go through all the ones that they speak, and then they're like, and everyone who has an unspoken, raise your hand.
Yeah, okay,
You don't
so
know
it's like
about
anonymous. It's like anonymous prayer requests.
It's like, who has a prayer request? I do, but it's unspoken.
We've done a few anonymous submissions.
funny.
I don't like to do anonymous, but I feel this in my heart. I'm like, let me give
Prophesy
you a
the
little
name.
healthy
Go
rebuke
ahead
to
and
everyone
prophesy the
who
name
Yeah,
there.
tell us, what's the name?
is submitting. Like, nothing in the kingdom is anonymous, especially a question like this. Like, let us honor you. Tell us your name.
Yeah, we
Tell
wanna
us where
give
you're
you a shout
from.
But that's okay. Read the
Anyways,
question.
but here's what Anonymous had to say. Anonymous said, please do an episode on miraculous testimonies.
Wow.
So we've done an episode on what to do when healing doesn't come. We feel like it's the topic that's less talked about, so we did that one. But now today we're going to do an episode on miracles. And I know your guys' story, so I am so excited to hear it from your perspective and your point of view. Chad told me this story in his house. We were watching some sporting event, something, Super Bowl or
like
March
eating
Madness.
Doritos and just telling them miracles.
Something. But you start telling me the story of your son, and as you did, I could feel the tangible presence of the Lord rush in the room, and I've just been marked by your story. And so if you're willing, we would love to talk about the story.
Yeah, would love to. I feel like it's gold, honestly, to my heart. There's certain like keys I feel like each of us are given in the kingdom, and this is like a key that's been given.
Yeah.
So I think Charis tells it best, but maybe you start from the beginning and stop us whenever, we
may just jump in and ask
We'll give the short
questions.
version, but jump in and ask questions and go ahead.
Well, I think I was thinking about this yesterday, that I've always loved narratives, like stories and allegories. And someone we went to a women's conference, and someone there was talking about like, what is an allegory? And I was thinking like our whole lives really tell the story of God's faithfulness. Like if I heard Sarah Beth's story start to finish, it would tell the same story my story is telling. You know what I mean? But in like a different
God's
way.
faithfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I
good.
think as our story unfolded with our son, it was like evident, oh, this isn't just for us. Like it's not just for us. So
and I think one important thing to share too, and Charis has been able to share at different places as well. And usually, like you have people stand up and you pray over them.
Yes.
I think that's important. We'll do it in the spirit here, but there's some fear attached to this as well. Like people that listen to it or that be like, oh, could this happen to me? We want you to hear the miracle side.
Yes.
Like there's trauma involved, there's pain, but we want people to hear the goodness of God.
Yeah.
So before we share, like I just thought it'd be wise to say that again. Like this is
that's so
our
good.
story. This is not your story. You don't have to. Our child was 5 years old when this happened. Don't go home and hug your 5-year-old and think he's gonna go through X, Y, and Z now. So
yeah,
That's really good.
I love that you said that.
Yeah. So when we were pregnant with Cade, God began speaking about his life. And I don't know, do y'all do like prophetic words for your babies? We do. Yeah. We're doing it with you.
Aaron writes a prophetic blessing over each baby and reads it over them
I do.
as soon as they're
of course
born.
he does.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
amazing.
Right out of the
Yeah.
womb. Just
Yes.
the Father's blessing.
God,
Yes.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so I would say like, for me, before I even got pregnant with Cade, I felt like the Lord had said warrior was going to be part of his name. And I had picked the name Lake, which has nothing to do with warrior. And God made it really clear in my 8th month of pregnancy, that's not his name. And so
You wanted to name him Lake.
Lake.
John D.
Okay.
Lake.
Don't you love it?
Yeah,
Lake
it's a
Freegee,
nice-
like
it's
has
a
a
nice
great
name.
I don't think
ring.
Chad loves it.
Chad's
He
like,
did
I
not
didn't
like
like
it.
it.
Chad does not get a vote
There was a
on our
Baylor
kids'
running
name.
back named that too. So
Okay.
I was like, I don't want to
So
name.
God won, and
yeah.
Cade became the name.
That's
Cade
hilarious.
is actually the name is Cademan. So
Okay.
Cademan's Call, you know that
So
that
cool.
old band.
Yeah.
But it means wise warrior, and so I was like, okay, I can work with that.
Wow.
It's not Lake, but it's still monosyllabic. Like I really wanted a one syllable. Doesn't matter. Cares. Anyway, so I knew he was going to be a warrior. And on my 40-week appointment, I wake up that morning. It's December 18th, and I read Psalm 18. So if you read Psalm 18, it's the first thing. It's also 2 Samuel 22, and it's about God rescuing. It's like, he rescued me because he delighted me. My cry for distress reached his ears. The foundations of the earth rocked and reeled with the blast of the breath of his nostrils. He like laid the foundations bare. And basically it's like God rescuing someone. And you know how the prophetic works, you never see like the potential. I wasn't like, I bet there's going to be a massive trial in Cade's life. You know, like I just was like, it's going to be a warrior. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, yeah.
So this became like, I was praying it. That day we found out he had a cleft lip and he wasn't born for another week. So we like started interceding for him. And God also spoke to Chad, John 11:40, during that week that we were like contending about whether or not he'd have a cleft lip. Just praying that he would be healed. We didn't know what that meant, if he'd be able to nurse, etc. So John 11:40 says, it's in the story of Lazarus, and it says, did I not tell you, Jesus is speaking, that if you believed, you would see the glory of God? So we were like, great, we're going to see the glory of God when he's born, which we totally did.
Yeah.
He was born with like the smallest cleft they'd ever seen. He was able to nurse. It was adorable. I called him my baby lion. Like, you know, it was precious.
That's amazing that it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't hard. It wasn't his palate.
Wow.
So anyway, he was born the day after Christmas.
Wow, December 26th.
December 26th.
Wow,
Yeah, I got to
Christmas
eat all the Christmas food. And then real casually before a blizzard rolled in, we walked into the hospital and I was like, I think he's coming.
Wow, that's wild.
And he was born what year?
2012.
2012. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, fast forward, he's 5 or 4. He was 4. And it was 2 days before Thanksgiving. And I was getting him changed. And I'd had a little bit of clues, but I was feeling a side and I felt something that I hadn't felt before. It was really hard. And I was like Googling and it was like, could be an enlarged spleen, like maybe he has an infection. We took him into the doctor that day. And
I just so happened to go in with her. Usually I'm never at those appointments. It's like, yeah, I'll come with you.
Yeah. And when we went in, immediately I knew it was like serious. They took him for an x-ray. And I remember like the very first thing I saw, in the x-ray, it's like a cross. It's actually how they measure on chest x-rays, but it looks just like a cross. And so immediately I was like, God is with us in whatever this is.
Yeah.
And within 24 hours, he was in emergency surgery. He had a tumor the size of a grapefruit growing off of one of his kidneys.
Wow.
And the kidney had not been working. They didn't know for how long. And he had, I think, almost 20 tumors in his lungs. So he was very sick.
20.
Yeah, it
Wow.
had already metastasized to his lungs.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
we had no
and we
idea.
had no idea.
This is in November of
This was in November, 2 days before Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And Chad had said that week, he said, I really think we need to focus on Thanksgiving this week. I was like, thank you, Lord. So what we didn't know at the time was the surgeon fellow would turn out to be a dear friend of ours. And she was able to describe the atmosphere in the room when they didn't think they'd be able to get the tumor out that was attached to his kidney. And she got to slip her hand in there and feel around and actually be like, we can get this out. And she describes like the celebration in the room. They prayed before the surgery because she knew the Lord.
Amazing.
And she's amazing. She's now a surgeon in Kenya with a children's hospital. So,
Oh, wow.
so it was like God's faithfulness in the beginning. That first week, we thought it would be a certain version of this cancer. It's called Wilms. It's really rare. Cade has always been really rare. But we thought it was like this good version. It would be 6 weeks of treatment. It wouldn't come back. He'd be fine. And so we were prepared for that. But we got a phone call that it was actually, we didn't even know there was another kind of Wilms. It was the more aggressive histology. And they said there's a 50-50 chance he'll live. It's 36 weeks of chemo. It's 22 radiation treatments. And again, like the chemo could kill him. The cancer could kill him.
And he's 5 at this point.
He was 4. He was almost 5.
Okay.
Birthday's
But then
the day after.
he's 4 when he goes through it, but then when they call back, he hasn't turned 5 yet.
Well,
I
I
think
think he
it
had
was-
turned 5.
Okay.
We
But you're just, I'm just
Yeah.
imagining putting your 5-year-old through chemo. You know, you're like, what?
Yeah. The day we started chemo, I remember the verse of the day on the Bible app was Exodus 14:14, where he says, you need only stand still and you'll see the salvation of God, you know, like with Pharaoh.
Wow.
So there were like all these little moments that were like, we could wonder over this. Like it was beautiful what God was doing at the same time.
Yeah. We can even like this is the very beginning of the story where your life feels like it's been turned upside down. You know, I'm working at the time. We're very involved at that church plant. Like there's a lot moving in life, and it's all put on pause. But I remember waking up in the hospital room after, I guess it was, they admitted him to the hospital pretty much right away to have surgery
that night.
And you remember, maybe more, you might remember more than these holy women, but you remember as a kid when you did something really bad and you like sometimes woke up with a pit in your stomach the next day. Yeah. Like I went to sleep that night thinking like this all hit me like a ton of bricks, and I don't want to wake. I realized that night I was like, oh, this is why people drink themselves to sleep. Yeah. I'd never had that thought ever in my whole life. Wow. It's like, man. And so I woke up.
Was it just the unknown or the fear of what could happen?
Yeah, it was just like my life is no longer what it was yesterday.
Wow.
Like, this is,
you're like, one day you're planning a green bean casserole.
Yeah.
You know, you're like
we're planning for
family,
Thanksgiving,
it's really
and now it's like,
so
what just happened? My son has cancer. Like, that's not supposed to happen to me, blah, blah, blah. You know, those types of things. I woke up the next morning with such peace.
Oh, wow.
Like the tangible presence of God.
Yeah.
And from that, I would say that's when even grace started to flow for us.
Yeah.
We felt like we were almost in like Transformer outfits. You know, those old things we used to play with probably. Like the presence of God, even people's prayers, was so tangible. I had never felt prayers before. And in that moment, I had grace to walk through tough conversation after tough, because that's really what happened. And that's kind of what she just shared, is for a while, it was, okay, this is terrible, but there's possibly some good news out of it, like 7 weeks of chemo, you know, really good chance that he'll live, to, oh, the worst case scenario, he might not live, like all sorts of emotions. And through that all, I would just say, a lot of people question God, you know, when stuff like that happens. Where are you, God? It felt like he was right there, which was amazing. We can get to that
Would
later.
you have said that in the midst of it, or do you say that now looking back?
No, totally. I remember even the drive to the ER. The Lord had given me Psalm 20 and Psalm 21 because it was November 20th and the 21st. I always read the Psalm of the day. Well, Psalm 20 is like, hear me in my distress. Psalm 22 is like, the king is rejoicing because you've heard him.
You're saying after we had that initial doctor's appointment.
So
do you remember what you said to that lady when we walked out?
I said, do you believe?
Do you know God?
Yeah, do you know God?
This was right.
You asked the doctor, do you know God?
It was a nurse.
Right after.
Because when you walk out, not that you ever would, but that when you walk into a pediatrician's office and you walk out of the office and everyone knows what you are just being told.
Yeah.
Their expression, I could see it in their expressions. And I mean, the inner fighter in me was like, stop it. You know, like, this is my son. I will contend for his life. Do you know that God is real?
But that's like Jesus when he raises the little girl from the dead.
Yes.
And he kicks people out.
Totally.
Because they didn't have faith, or maybe they didn't know him. I don't know which one, but it's like he was.
I'll never forget that. It was a very loving way, but she walked out of there and you could tell this nurse was almost white, and she looked at her in the eyes and said, do you know God?
Oh, I have chills.
And she said, yes. She was like I could see something about what I said put courage in her. And I would see her after that. And she would always, you know, I remember one time she like wept to me in the office later.
Oh,
anyway.
Wow.
That was the beginning of
we
contending.
felt the presence of the Lord, and we felt even the significance of the prophetic, like what he'd already said over Cade. We started going back. We had these bracelets made that had John 11:40. Did I not tell you, if you'd believe, you'd see the glory of God?
Wow. Goodness.
So there were these
so strong.
Yeah, there were moments where it was like, wow, you've really made this ready. Like the prophetic isn't just this like fancy thing that gets me to my dreams.
It was how you fought.
It's your weapons.
Say that again.
Yeah. The prophetic, sometimes we treat it like, it's nice. It's like a ice cream sundae. It's nice.
Yeah,
but
like I want a word.
Yeah, and instead it's like, it's a weapon. Oof. And that Psalm 18, that was Cade's Psalm. It says, you've trained my hands for battle so that I can leap over a wall. I can bend a bow of bronze. And it was like, he put courage in us through the word. And so it gave me permission. I would find fear and everything. Like we were in the basement of this radiology building every morning because they send the kids first before the adults.
Okay.
We go downtown. It was freezing. It was winter. And I would just have my Bible open, pacing the whole time Cade was in radiation. Our tiny church would send friends, like all my friends were there. We would intercede the entire time during every chemo. But it was like I lived from word to word.
Okay, so you guys said yes to the chemo. So they came back and they said, here's the plan. And you said, we're going to do this plan.
Yeah. Well, so first we said, no, he's going to be healed.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were those people that our church prayed, fasted, because we knew we had to come back in a week or make a decision in a week. There was so many people praying. We got back to the doctor and we said, hey, scan him again.
It was like this young doctor. I remember him being like,
he's like,
what?
I was like, go
this is a week later.
Yeah, I was going to scan him again. I don't want to start anything. I don't want to start anything. And he came back in and, sir, it's the same. What do you want to do? It's like they're kind of annoyed with you at that point.
Yeah.
And again, you just have this like choice to keep believing. Keep going. It's like, is God good? That's kind of the question in your head the whole time. And it wasn't a question, I guess is what we're trying to say. It was, he's here.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's not, I don't have to go look for him. I don't have to go reach for him. He's here. Okay. You're telling me the tumors are still there. What's next?
Okay.
So then
chemo.
how did you have peace to start chemo after you knew the tumors were still there?
That was one of the toughest decisions of my life.
Because you knew what it could do.
It very much was an Abraham and Isaac moment. I said, Lord, you have to heal him. This is not my son any longer. Like I did everything that I know to do. And so they're telling me to do this, which again, I'm not trying to bash modern medicine, even chemo, like it saves so many lives each year.
Yes,
but when you think about it, like during treatment, fast forward, there was a room next door to us where they spilled some on the ground. There was hazmat people that came in and ripped up all of the flooring.
And you're like, that's
I'm putting this into
my son.
And the first time, Cade, the first night he peed and it got in Chad's eyes because you have to like catch the piece.
Can I tell you a quick low moment for me? So they told us we're not allowed to lay in bed with him when he sweats. Like we can't lay with him. We can't, be close to him, share drinks with him, because when it comes out of him, after he gets chemo and it comes out, you
poisonous.
Can't. Yeah. And so but you also have to track his urine. So I'm the one staying in the hospital every time this happens. We had kids. And so I remember it was the first treatment. It was literally, I think, the first time we had to catch his urine in this little cup.
I never even thought about that.
So they test his hemoglobin levels and everything. Yeah. So he's like, Daddy, I got to go to the bathroom. And I'm laying on the couch over there. And I get up and I go help him. I'm basically sitting down next to him. He's going to the bathroom and he totally misses and goes to the bathroom right in my eyes.
No.
And all over
You're like, get the hazmat suit.
At that point, literally,
Chad's
I was
like,
in such like a
do?
low place. I was kind of like, Lord, I'm just going to go back to bed. Like as far as like it was the middle of the night, my son has cancer. Like it's just kind of like
you have urine on your face.
I'm not, Lord, I'm just going to give you this one too. And so we cleaned off and went back to sleep.
So at what point does the bucket come into play?
Yes. So
you got to talk about the bucket.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
We go through 15 weeks of treatment. We have our first scans and they call us. We have a young oncologist. He's so sweet. Calls us. He's like, it's a miracle. Your prayers have worked. Because he's seen us. Like we're bringing a team of people to every treatment.
Our church was amazing.
And he's like,
oh, wow.
All the spots are gone. They look to be what we think could be scar tissue. Like there are still obviously things there. And so he's like, but we know there's probably still cancer cells active. So we're going to continue with treatment. Just want to let you know. And that was when Chad was like,
yeah, we had treatment for 15 weeks up to that point, not knowing anything. So they basically tell you, we'll scan at 15 weeks. And if it's good, we'll keep going. If it's not, sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Freegee, like there's nothing else we can do for you. So this was a big phone call. And so we get the phone we get the best news ever. Like it was literally the best night of our life. Well, then it sinks in, oh, we've got 20 more weeks of this.
Yeah.
And they told me at the beginning that the chemotherapy could also kill him.
Because it attacks, well, everything probably.
Yeah,
but your
and he
immune
only has one
system-
kidney at this point. Like they had removed the other one. And so I was sitting there like, Lord, it looks like all the tumors are gone, but yet the doctor's saying we can't really tell.
Right.
And so I asked him, like, can we stop it? It looks like everything's fine. It's like, no, there could be a few cells left that would multiply, blah, blah, blah. So it was one of those.
You didn't want to take the chance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Immediately it was like, okay, I hear in part, I prophesy in part. Like this is not a time to hear in part or like I need to know that I know that I know that Cade's healed. So I was in the garage and I was like, the story of Gideon, I think Judges 6 maybe, popped in my mind about the fleece. When he put the fleece out before the Lord,
yes.
Hey, if I wake up, I'll know, I think it was the Amalekites or somebody like that. I'll be able to go overtake them.
Yeah.
So I was in the garage thinking, okay, I need to lay out a fleece. And I don't know what came over me, why I thought this was like a good idea. But
Charis doesn't either.
I really don't.
Like, what?
I saw a white bucket in the corner of my garage.
Like a Home Depot bucket.
The Home Depot white. It
an
wasn't a Home
ugly
Depot,
bucket.
but the same
But a
thing.
white
It was
bucket,
actually
Like a
from
paint
our work.
bucket, like
Okay.
a big paint
Like a paint
bucket.
bucket.
Exactly. It was from our work. And I was like, I have a pond behind our house. And I thought, I'm going to put this bucket out near the pond, like 10 feet off the pond. Again, I don't know where this came from. It had to have been the Lord.
Yeah,
It's like, I'm going to put this bucket out by the pond. And Lord, if you put a fish in this bucket, I don't care how it gets in there. A bird can drop it in there. Like my kids can drop, like, I don't care who, like, so if you put a fish in this bucket, I will know that I know that Cade's healed. And I'll go have the awkward conversation with the doctor. Like, hey, there was a fish in the bucket. Like, he's healed. We're done. See you later. God's good.
Wow.
And so we shared this with a few people close to us, our church community. And it was like, our kids even, we would tell them.
It was like
hey,
fun. We would go check the bucket before every chemo. It was like, let's go check the bucket. And it would always be empty. Cade would check the bucket.
I love this because you're putting the storyline of faith before your kids, despite the day of trouble. And it moves me.
Because they would come
Anyways,
and they would go check the bucket and they'd come back discouraged. And I'm like, hey, Eden, like, God, we're just giving God every chance to speak to us. This is like not a bad thing. There doesn't have to be a fish in the bucket. But we want to give him the opportunity to speak through that.
Wow.
But he's also going to speak to us today through other ways and, the Bible. And it was basically laying our whole lives out before the Lord.
And so we did tell our oncologist, we had switched oncologists at this point. But anyway, and she would be like, okay, we're checking for the fish. And, y'all are crazy,
Oh my
goodness. Fast forward.
Y'all are the type of crazy we need.
I want to be this
So
crazy.
we get to the end. It's week 30, and we have another set of scans. And
So we're kind of on
So you did another 15 weeks at this point.
Yeah, and
Another
we're kind of
15
on cruise
weeks.
control at this point. Like
this second 15 weeks was awful. He was getting really sick. It was terrible. I
Oh,
hated
wow.
it. But we're like, the end is in sight. We're fasting every Tuesday with our church for him. And anyway, so we get to the 30-week scan, and we hear nothing for a week, which is really unusual. And I'm like, dread is setting in. And finally, our oncologist calls and tells us, like, she herself is so troubled, but she's like, hey guys, I've never seen this before. There are 4 new spots in his lungs, which means like active tumor is growing.
Despite the chemo.
Despite the chemo, doing the best we can. There's one protocol for Wilm. So it's not like where you can do a bunch of different treatments. There's one.
Okay.
And so she's like, we can do some things. We can finish this treatment and then do surgery to try to get out one of these little spots. They'll have to like go through his tissue, like his lung tissue, like a sponge, and try to get this out. They'll test tube it and see if there's any chemos on the market that might be able to treat it. But there's like a less than 10% chance that would even work if we did. Meanwhile, Cade's getting weaker and weaker. I'm watching it before my eyes.
So it's like you got good news and now all of a sudden the worst.
Such bad news. And Chad and I have 2 different reactions, which that's just good to know that's why God gives you each other so you can stand back to back and fight.
Wow.
I hear that and I think, Lord, if I'm going to lose my son, I cannot afford to be mad at you. Like, I've done all I can and you still have carte blanche. Like, you can do whatever you want. And so I was like, I have to get my heart ready to lose him. So I need to be able to have these conversations about palliative care and hospice care. And I want him to die at home. And I go down this route. Meanwhile, Chad wakes up the next morning and comes into my room and he's like, Charis. And I was like, what? Like, I'm so depressed. And he's like, it's 1 Samuel 30. And I was like, yeah, I already know. Like, I know I've told you about that passage. And he's like, no, God said it's 1 Samuel 30. And I had told him, Chad had not listened earlier in the treatment process. I'd read 1 Samuel 30 when David is given Ziklag, his wives and his children get taken. The city gets burned. And he inquires of the Lord. His men want to kill him. He inquires of the Lord. The Lord says, pursue, overtake, recover all. And Chad's like, it's 1 Samuel 30. And I'm like, you do that. I'm going to get used to the idea that Cade might not be with us next Christmas. And I can't go there with you, but you do that. Like, I'll bless you to do that.
Wow, that's
powerful. I know that next morning after we got the news, you wake up and it felt like you're in the hospital all over again. Like, but I went to the same chair that I'd always gone to, opened my Bible, and I actually opened my Bible and I couldn't read the Bible. It wasn't like I was upset. It was like, so I laid on the floor.
Wow.
And I said, Lord, speak to me. And almost probably 20 seconds later, I heard, not with an audible voice, but I heard 1 Samuel 30. And I had no idea what it was.
But if I had been awake, I would have known. I would have been like,
I had no idea what it was.
Good news.
And I must not have been listening to her earlier because
isn't that marriage where
exactly
your wife's been telling you for months, and then finally God tells you the same thing.
Like, God spoke something profound, and you're like,
yeah,
I've been saying that.
It was that exact face. You should have seen that. I was like so excited to tell her.
Were you not listening to me?
That's basically what I got. But I was so full of faith because I knew that I heard that.
Oh,
so 1 Samuel 30, go pursue.
Should we go there?
And
pursue.
Is there like a certain verse, or is it the whole chapter?
Yeah,
it really is the whole chapter. It's worth reading. It's beautiful.
But it literally does say, he will pursue, overtake, recover all. And it's a beautiful story.
At the end of the chapter, it says nothing was missing, great or small. Like, and then David gets spoiled and sends it to his friends.
He got riches for his friends. It was kind of like,
it
was hard to grasp onto at that point. But something, again, the Lord, and we're kind of getting a theme here. He was just there. So it was, I was full of faith at that point. Literally, she had given these printouts to us, and we had laid them on a table, and there were just these tiny little spots.
Like the x-rays of his
and I was like,
scans.
You're telling me this is going to kill my kid. Like
these tiny spots.
These tiny spots. And so we honestly went and we had different reactions and different steps, but we were still in love and in union actually. But it was my turn to just lead out completely, and most doctor conversations just really,
which you have to understand, like, that's an obstinate person. The doctors are trying to be sober and be like, hey, this is happening. And Chad's like kind of in la land, and I'm like, hey, I'm hearing you. Like, I get it. I get what you're trying to tell me. We're going to let him do his thing because I don't know what God needs to do in him.
Chad's
like
over here, 1 Samuel 30.
Totally. It's the gift of faith.
I got it tattooed now.
The gift of faith.
It is. He has it. I don't.
I
mean, I do, Lord. I want more, but I don't have the same. So anyway.
Wow.
So the story.
The story goes. So we get six weeks goes by. His final chemo gets canceled. He'd run an infection, and so she's like, you know what? Let's just not do the last chemo week. Which I'd prayed the whole time, Lord, if he doesn't need 1 week of chemo, cancel it.
Yeah.
Wow.
She says, let's just rescan, and if we need to, we'll do the surgery. Not like if we need to, then we'll schedule the surgery. Then we'll schedule new chemo. So we rescan, and she calls
we set
us.
the stage of. Sorry to interrupt. Set the stage of this is a big deal. It's our church now is all in.
They're all
praying
in,
because this is the phone call that determines all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're done with chemo. Like,
this is the call.
This is it.
Yes.
What is going to happen with our son? And so we knew we were going to have a scan. We started a fast. We had so many people praying and fasting.
We had a big worship prayer and worship night.
Like, it was amazing. And we felt the grace of God in all of it.
Yeah.
And thinking back to it is like, how did we have peace? Like,
and we had 4 kids. Like, I had a 7-month-old when Cade was diagnosed. So Lily's life was like spent eating things off the hospital floor. So that's why she has a great immune system.
Amen to that.
But so anyway, we get to the final scan. She calls us. We're together at this point, right?
No, I was on the phone outside of my work.
And she walks us through. She reads the scan, which is in medical language. So I'm like, literally have no idea what you're saying. And
you're like, can you translate this for me now?
Exactly. And then finally she said, are you smiling? And I said, am I supposed to be smiling about what you're saying? I don't know what you're saying. And she said, Charis, the spots are gone. And she said, put him in school. So we hang up the phone.
Put him in school.
Put him in school.
Put that boy in school is what she said.
Yeah. And we're like, she's like, I'll see you in a few weeks. We'll talk about it.
Like, we're done? What?
Which that is the weirdest
We're
moment.
done?
Because it's almost like mid-war and then everything's gone and you're like, they're rolling the tanks out and you're like, what? Wait, what? What's happening? Like, we get to do normal life. I don't have to show up at the chemo.
How long has this been? Over a year?
This is 10 months. This is 11 months. 11 months.
Okay.
So,
goodness.
3 days later, I go shopping with Eden, and I get these missed phone calls from Chad, FaceTimes, and I think he's gonna like rebuke me for spending too much money shopping, but I'm like, what's going on?
Good husband. Good husband.
This is not a marriage podcast.
You're at Target and your husband's phone shows up on your phone, and
I'm like,
why are you at Target?
Decline. And then finally, I'm like, this is so annoying. He won't stop. So I get it. And he's like, Charis. I'm like, what? He's like, I went to get the bucket. I was like, yes. He's like, I couldn't find it. I was like, what do you mean you couldn't find it? It made it through the whole winter. And he's like, I couldn't find it for the first time. He's like, I saw it sitting on its side on the edge of the pond. And he's like, I got the bucket out. He said, Charis, I went to get it. I got a stick. I pull it up. He's like, and I pour, there's a little bit of water in it, like an inch. He's like, and as I'm pouring it out, I think, wouldn't it be cool if there's a fish in this bucket? And a fish flopped out. So we get home.
I hit my knees.
There was a fish in the bucket.
There
was a fish in the bucket.
How many days after the phone call was this?
Three. It was like 3 days.
Well, that was Friday.
Yeah,
this was Sunday, so 2 days.
It was literally
Because you're going to get the bucket because victory.
I'm done. I was thinking less. I
put the
wasn't
bucket
even
away.
thinking about the bucket.
You were like killing moles.
Well, I don't want to say that on the podcast,
sorry.
but it's like I was working
we do
in my
live in
yard.
Texas. Disclaimer.
I was working. Yes, I was working in my yard, and I just thought, I don't need the bucket anymore. And I look over and it's just gone. And I'm like, where is it? And in 20 weeks, it had never moved. It had, rolling over one time from rain, but the thing was there. And so I see it floating on the pond and on its side. Imagine the Handlebar podcast cup
Online.
It's just floating, and I grab it and I still have it in my mind, honestly.
Oh my
I just flip that bucket over and there's a fish in it and it starts flopping on the ground. Because if you think back, if I said to the Lord, I will know my son is healed if you put a fish in this bucket.
Oh my gosh.
Because think back to anyone you've known that has cancer as well. The journey starts when they say you're clear.
It's a lifelong thing.
But come back 6 months from now, we're going to scan again.
Not
we're
even
going to
6 months. It was
or
like
I'm just
sooner
saying
than
in
that.
normal cases. So I wasn't even, we were just rejoicing, but it's been, to me, the fish in the bucket story and kind of how we have fish day now at our house, like once a year.
Kept the fish. It died. It needed like running, circulatory. We didn't know that. So it died and we're like, hey, the fish died, so you didn't have to die. So like,
it's
you like started sharing the gospel through it. It's like Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. It's in my office though. I got it stuffed.
And it's not big.
I have the fish.
It's little, but it's all we needed.
It was bigger, but we put it we had to keep it in the freezer for a year. It's like classic fish story. It's
been through a lot.
But the fish it's been through a lot, but it's in my office and it stays there.
And what's awesome
like
is
possession.
On our second set of scans afterward, our oncologist, there were some weird spots and we thought maybe it was new, like maybe his cancer was back. She calls us a few days later and we had told her the story and she calls us and she's like, guys, the spots were nothing. She's like, hey, trust the fish. So she's not a believer. I mean, Lord save her, but we have
she didn't know God.
No, didn't know God, but she knew the story and trust the fish. So we have that on the sign too with the little fish.
Yeah.
Trust the fish.
Wow.
It's incredible.
So just it all tied together, and this doesn't always happen in the kingdom. Like you've said you've done a podcast on when healing doesn't come.
Right.
And if you think back to the beginning of our story, healing didn't come time after time after time. Like I told the guy, go scan him again. I bet he's healed. No, sir, he's not. Like, what would you like to do? And then the 4 new spots. It was a continuation of John 11:40. Did I not tell you that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? Wow. And the fish was just like an over the top. I didn't even need it.
We didn't need a fish.
I didn't know I needed a fish
heaven.
at that point, but it was, to this day, it's like a wink from the Lord of like, I am good. Like I see you. And I feel like that's what he's asking us and asking most of us, like, do you believe that I'm good? Do you believe that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? And I think that was the question we answered early on and just kept going down that path.
No matter what
your
physical reality was telling you.
Yeah.
Like
and even that we're here
spots.
today, we wouldn't have expected to share a story on a podcast. None of that ever was a thing. It was God's good and we're going to cling to Jesus.
Yeah.
So,
so now it's a saying for you guys. There's a fish in the bucket.
Yeah. We have fish day. Did you come to fish day this year?
I have not been
I don't
to fish
think we
day,
were like
so-
officially friends
We
yet.
gotta go.
they didn't get
come
the
to
invite
fish
this
day.
year. They were going to
When we were at this women's conference, Elissa was like, "Hey, you need to buy that shirt. It had a huge fish on it." And she's like, "Chad needs to wear it at Fish Day." And I was like, "I'm so
Fish
touched
Day
that
is a
you-
day. There's the day we found the fish in the bucket,
Right.
and we basically
October
invite
7th.
a bunch of people over just to
October 7th.
party. It's like
Yes.
it hit me
It's
a couple
over
years
the
ago.
top
I'd never
party.
done it, and I was like, wait, if there was any day for me to like just go celebrate and
Fish Day.
spend a bunch of money and have people over and have fun, like let's have Fish Day.
God
That
put a
is
fish
amazing.
in a bucket.
Yeah,
To confirm to you that your son was healed.
You're like,
So
there's
we
going to be that
party.
day where you're staying in heaven. You're looking at Gideon. You're like, you had a fleece that got wet.
You got a fish.
I had a fish in a
fish,
bucket.
bro. You should have done a fish.
like,
Yes.
thanks for your story. It encouraged
So,
me, but I
You got
want
a,
to
you got a wet fleece.
So just to tie the story together, so Cade is how old at this point?
When we found the fish?
No, right now.
Right now,
Today.
he's 11.
He's 11. So
Yeah.
that was when he was 4, 5. So what is that? 6 years later.
Yeah.
6, 7 years later, here we are. There's a fish in the bucket.
Year after year, there's been a fish like that. It plays in your mind because if you think back to it, every time he gets a new fever,
Oh, wow.
every
Yeah.
time he gets a cough, because
Yeah.
that was the symptoms of cancer for
first
us.
symptoms.
So there's all these and we even took him in a few times. Like you're still wrestling with the same questions, but again, you have a choice to believe.
And we have a sign and a wonder. It's like
Yeah.
when the Lord gave the Israelites different things to be like, remember me by this. It was like, it's like a remember me, for our family.
So I would love if you guys could pray for anyone listening. But before we move into prayer, because this is the Handlebar podcast.
Yes.
And we have to somehow give a
Yeah.
handlebar. I want to give a handlebar for someone who's walking through the day of trouble.
Yes.
How do you show up this way? I mean, the
Yeah.
way you guys showed up, the way you trusted God, the way you fought by faith. I think of what Paul says to Timothy when he says, fight with your prophetic words.
Yes.
And he says, some have not done this and they've made shipwreck of their
Exactly.
faith because they did not fight with their prophetic words.
Yeah.
And I hear that you
Remember
guys,
the words that were made about you.
that were made about you. Yeah, the prophetic,
Just
the
like
prophecies.
Cade, God spoke to you that he was a warrior,
Totally.
and you remembered that in the day of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
it specifically says some have not done this and they've made shipwreck of their
Yes,
faith.
That's right.
Yes.
And so two things I think is like what handlebars would you guys give? We won't give any this episode, but what you guys give to how to fight with faith, how to fight with the prophetic, how to get in that prophetic storyline, and how do you show up in faith?
Yeah.
The way you time after time could have checked out, middle finger to the Lord, I'm out, look what you did to my family, yet you continually said, I'm not going to get bitter, I'm not going to shut down, I'm going to look at you.
Yeah.
And what handlebar would you give?
I think for the prophecy, I'll speak to that. Maybe
Yeah.
you speak to the second one. If you haven't, the listener, whoever you are, if you have not received prophetic words, the blood is always speaking. So there's like a heavenly treasure for you of words. So go after them, find out what God's saying, ask people you trust, and then wage warfare by them by praying them. Like I had to open my mouth every time fear came and declare God's promises. I had lists of verses. I would just pray. I still pray Psalm 18 over his life. And
His baseball number's 18.
yeah.
Come on.
I mean, we just
so
have
cool.
I'm like you, these are weapons and they have to be used. It's not just like pretty on a note card. So I think it's finding people to help you search out what those words would be if you don't have them. And if you have them, use them. Like they're
Yes.
meant to be sharp. And
Yes.
I think it's in Isaiah, he says, I'll make of you a threshing sledge, new, sharp, and having teeth. And I always think that's prophetic
Wow.
should be new, sharp, having teeth. Like it
Wow.
should thresh the
Wow.
mountain, So that would be my encouragement is find the
Yes.
words, use the words.
Amen.
It's so good.
People always ask me right after everything happened, like, what did you learn? So I would say the same thing I said back then is go read your Bible. Like that was I remember thinking that time and time again after Cade was healed of, I'm so glad I know God. Like, I'm so glad I searched him out. Yeah. I'm so glad it wasn't like like, where are you, God? I wasn't distant from him in the time. So I'm not trying to prop myself up. That God had met me because I'd made a habit of spending time with him. I'd made a habit of learning to abide. And it's not about me. It's about the Lord is the point, is give him an opportunity to speak to you. Give him an opportunity to reveal himself. And how does he love to reveal himself? Through the word. And so learn to read your Bible. Learn to carve out time to know God, because you're going to have really big highs in life. You're going to have pretty big lows. We're guaranteed that. One of my favorite scriptures is in Hebrews. It says, although he was a son, he learned obedience through that which he suffered. Wow. So we need to tie that in with all the good things in scripture too, but it's going to happen. And so just know when it happens, he's near. So today, that's what I would always tell people, go read your Bible today. Yeah. Go read your Bible tomorrow.
Like, build your life on it. So when you get to the day of trouble and you're squeezed, the word is what comes out.
Exactly.
Yes,
Wow. That's so powerful, you guys. Thank you for telling us all of that.
Yes,
it feels like such
honor.
a treasure.
It does.
So fun.
Thanks for having us.
Hopefully this is not the last time we have you guys on the podcast.
No, it's just the first of many.
We love you. Would you pray for anyone listening that's maybe they're walking through the day of trouble?
Yeah.
Maybe they're, who knows where people are at that are listening to this episode. And I would love if we could pray for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, Father, I pray for each person listening. I pray for those who are either walking through their own cancer journey or someone that they love dearly. I thank you that you would strengthen their hands right now. I thank you for the power of testimony, that it's really the revelation of Jesus. So I thank you that what happened to us is available. And I pray for the water level of faith to rise in people's hearts in the fact that you're good, and in the fact that their story, their pain has a purpose no matter what the pain is. And it's to point them to you and to lead others to you. And Father, I ask that they would have the same story we had, where there'd be miraculous healing of cancer. And Father, I pray for those listening who are longing for more of the prophetic. I just ask that they'd have ears to hear. Pray for godly mentors for them. And I pray, Father, that there would be the gift of faith that was active in Chad to believe that God's good, that he does what he says he's going to do. And I thank you, Lord, that we trust you and you're so faithful. Your name is faithful and true. So I bless people to experience you as that. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Hi, I'm Maggie Verlander. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm a listener of the Handlebar podcast. One thing I love about the podcast is how real it feels to me. I feel like every time I listen, it speaks into a lot of topics that I don't hear from a lot of other podcasts. And so every time I just am reminded how authentic it feels to me. And so if you love this podcast too, you should like and subscribe and send it to a friend, your family, your crush, all the people. That's it.
Wait, no. Actually, I wanted to read you that part. Yeah, because I think